I can't imagine what kind of a worm has the gall to, a couple of days before the US bombing of Iran, said Donald Trump better ask for Congress's approval before he takes any military action in Iran. He better be a really good boy and not be naughty, and definitely ask for Congress's approval before he does anything. And then after the bombing, say, actually, it was so good that Donald Trump didn't ask for Congress's permission to bomb the living fuck out of Japan, out of Iran. Hakeem Jeffries, what is even the point of you? What is even the point of any Democratic opposition in the United States? It's all a joke. Look at it. You can see it's a joke. It's happening in front of your eyes. Oh, there it is.
Yeah,
Oh
you
my
need to
God.
have permission to do something that is unquestionably terrible for like everyone on the planet. But also, if you do ask for it, we will give you it. And you didn't ask, which is bad, but not bad enough that I have any kind of problem with. You did it. It was great. It was great that you did it. Well, it's like the Grumps from the Muppets, right? Like Hakeem Jeffries is talking himself into a better and better opinion of Trump by the second.
Yeah, it is like it's such worm behavior where it's kind of like, I don't know, like this thing where it's like this, like kind of trying to like ingratiate themselves or something like that, when it's like, I don't know, it's like, oh, he better ask permission because we have protocol to upkeep. But then it's like, you don't care anyway. You're just fucking saying that, it's, I don't know, fucking
Keeping up appearances.
yeah.
Empire Edition. Yeah.
Even like barely so. It's Anyway, we are Red Planet. Welcome. I said Weird Planet. Weird Planet.
We could
That's
be
because
Wed
we're all
Planet.
married.
If we weren't.
Every single one of
It's
us.
a big announcement, everyone. Today we're all getting married live on air.
Yeah. Welcome to another thrilling Red Planet episode. Why don't we start with Mule? What's the most base thing you've been up to since our last stream?
Well, to be honest, I'm still trying to do a bunch of self-care, a bunch of self-healing after a long period of activism, about 3 years of activism, to be honest, at this point. And a lot of that is contained, been essentially focused on my physical health. I have gained some steroids. They're legal, just in case anyone gets scared. They're prescribed by a doctor for inflammation in my nose, and I think I was talking a little bit about this last week about my eustachian tubes and all this different kind of stuff. And I kind of noticed on Tuesday as well that my glasses are super tight, and my doctor had asked me to look at my glasses and go and get a vision test and essentially see if I can get some new glasses. So yeah, that's all stuff that I've had a look at, and it's made my life and my health absolutely infinitely better. I'm feeling far more better. I barely got any fatigue at the moment. It's crazy. I'm just continuing to get better and better and better. So I've used that to try and do a bunch of stuff that's been on my to-do list for a long time, which is get rid of all the black mold in my house, which is just gross. And I've also used the opportunity to get a bunch of stuff out of a cupboard that is my cupboard that I own. So I'm just going to get rid of it because that is also covered in black mold. So I got my dad to come up and got a bunch of stuff that was in that cupboard, and I just said, yo, could you just like put this in your attic for a bit while I figure out something to do. And so I'm getting rid of that. I've got a load of clothes ready to go to a charity shop. So yeah, it's just like cleaning house and spring cleaning, and it feels good. And I feel like I'm getting back to normal. I'm settling back into content creation. I've got loads more energy for it. Yeah, that's it really. Nothing based, to be honest. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like literally just looking after myself. Well, although that is based, I know that we do.
Yeah,
say
as
that,
you
but...
say, as we're always saying, it is based because like if you don't, you're never gonna do anything else, right?
That's true. 12 rules for life. Clean your room. So,
Yeah.
what was your 12?
Yeah,
which of the 12 rules for life did you do this week?
Well, I did the 13th rule, which is to buy an extra copy of any of Jordan Peterson's most recent books. Is like you always should be, re-upping your JBP as much as
Hell
possible.
yeah, sister.
But I think
You got two eyes, right?
I did another shift at the harm reduction hub. I actually I realized as soon as I got off air last week that like I'd said, oh, I didn't really do anything based, it was all work, like blah blah blah. And that's kind of like it's nice that the hub shifts are going kind of into the background as just like I didn't even think about it because it's just like a thing I
Yeah.
do during the week. And it's just really good to help people out that way. With a lot of the political context of what's going on in the UK right now, which we will talk about more in the show and more on a bonus episode during the week, hopefully. Like I really think decrim and just like a lot to like create harm reduction structures is some of the most revolutionary work we can be doing. I mean, it aligns with a lot of stuff we've been saying on the show for a long time, which is just that like whether this is all about surviving fucking World War III nuclear apocalypse or it's about building communism, like no matter how hopeful you are, you have to recognize that like building support structures is the best thing we can be doing. And I think the harm reduction hub is a huge step in the right direction for that. Um, yeah, yeah. So I mean, what am I trying to say? It's one of those, really. Yeah. I'm pulling a
Yeah.
mule on
It's one
it.
of those.
No. In all seriousness, like I think it's one of the most important things we can be doing. And like if we do it really, really well, that's dual power. And if we, don't do it as well, but we still survive, we survive. That's great. So I'm feeling hyped about the hub. And yeah, we'll get more into what's going on in the UK in a little bit
Yeah.
in the news. But first, Tim, what's the most base thing you've done this week?
I was just thinking about it before, and I did the same as Mule. We like had a day where we had some like mold growing, we mopped the ceilings, all of that kind of stuff. But I was like thinking about there was this guy that I tattooed the other day who he's kind of like a liberal guy. He was like talking about how, he's like only ever voted for the Greens and all this kind of stuff, but he's feeling like really alienated from them because like, he's like, they seem really like radical now and there's like all this like crazy stuff going on in politics. And I was like tattooing him for like maybe like 3 hours or something and just like I didn't like launch into it with like, well, I'm somewhat of a communist, like anything like that, but just like fully just had this real chill conversation with him over a couple hours where I kind of just like, you know, I explained my perspective, which I would say is like kind of like the broad, like lefter than liberal perspective sort of thing on New Zealand politics at the moment. And like he was like towards the end of it and stuff, you're saying he's like, oh man, like this is like filling in so many gaps for me. Like this is like all this kind of stuff. And
I always wondered why it felt like voting was pointless.
yeah, like stuff like
I
that. And
I wish I had like an encyclopedic knowledge of all the little Marxist, like Karl Marx predictions, because like whenever, when people are like, actually Marx did predict this. Like I've seen someone
yeah.
applying that for the Suez Canal thing he said when the
Oh yeah,
the big boat got stuck. It's like
yeah.
you can equally kind of apply it onto the Strait of Hormuz. Like, but
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
I wish I had that kind of encyclopedic knowledge of Marx's writing to be able to go to like seemingly be having a normal chat about
Yeah.
like current events and then just go like, yeah, man, it's just crazy. It's like Karl Marx said, and then like just wheel out like a perfect prediction of current events, like
Yeah,
from
yeah.
150 years ago.
I do often drop like Marx and Leninisms, but I like, it's very often that I remember like, oh, this is from, Capital or whatever like that. But you just say like, oh yeah, there's like this thing where, like Karl Marx says that a society kind of develops these things which it kind of instills in people these ideas that they take to be natural truths about the world, but they're really just kind of like self-justifying things about, just things like that. I think is really, like it's helpful for people to hear that stuff. And I think it's good to be like, oh yeah, and that comes from Karl Marx, that guy that, a lot of people talk shit about, or you might have heard some weird shit about. His stuff is actually really pretty chill, and
You might
it
have seen
looks
like
good.
bad tweets about Karl Marx calling him a bad guy, but he's not. He's
Yeah, yeah.
cool.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, and like explained all this stuff to this guy about like, prison abolition, and even like he was kind of like all that stuff. Like he said, oh, I've been seeing all these people, saying like, fuck the police, all cops are bastards. But, like I've had some like good experiences with them and all this kind of stuff. And just trying to be like,
Like
okay,
what?
well, but I mean, like this was like a white guy in his 20s, so
I have a good example of that though. I was chatting to a
mm,
guy who works in a cafe near me, and he's a black guy, and he was talking. We were chatting about the police because there'd been a massive police presence in the area for whatever. I don't need to go into it. And he was just telling me about like, oh, sometimes there's bad cops and sometimes there's good cops, and I was like,
mm,
I don't. Whatever. I know where most people are at about this. I'm not going to go after you about this. I just joke like I think there's bad ones and bad ones. But he was like, yeah, like one time I had this really bad interaction with this cop. So when I saw him again, I like tried to get out of his way and like hide. And but this other time, like my friends and I, like it was winter and we were cycling, so we were in valleys, and so we got stopped by like a ton of like massive
mm.
police vans and searched and all this stuff. And then like my friend did have like edibles, but they let us all go. And I was like, this isn't a story where the cops are good. Like
Yeah.
The cops are good
Yeah.
because they didn't kill us. The cops are good because they didn't
Yeah.
beat the shit out of us.
Yeah. I usually just try and talk about how it's like, like, oh yeah, okay, you have a cool uncle that's a cop. Well, the institution of policing is bad, which makes even good people do bad things or incentivizes them to act in bad ways and things like that. But yeah, so and there was a conversation that I feel like both of us kind of came away in a really positive way from it. It wasn't like really like a debate or anything like that. But yeah, so that was nice. So yeah, if you have done anything based or cool or whatever, and you're proud of what you've been up to, you can message us on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok, or send an email to based@redplanetshow.com. Include your name and pronouns if you're cool with that, and we might shout it out in a later episode. Um,
absolutely. So,
yeah,
but now it's the news. Tim, do you want to tell us
it
about
is.
something happening in Gaza?
Yes, always something happening in Gaza. So, yeah, aid seekers in Gaza continue to be targeted as Israeli attacks kill at least 26. So, yeah, you've probably seen on the news now. It's happened so many times now. Uh, the aid points that America and Israel are asking people to line up for, and then getting attacked. So yeah, we've got at least 26 murdered in the latest attacks. There were 11 aid seekers gunned down at the US-backed food distribution point. So yeah, Israel deliberately blocks access to food and then massacres these starving people who try to follow the correct procedure as they're being told to access food. So yeah, this is like clearly not war, it's extermination, right? And yeah, and so the US funds these through the GHF. So that's an aid group that America has set up to supply this aid, but they end up just like all the money just gets funneled to Israel, and it's not stuff going through. There's been a couple of exposés, particularly in the last week or so, that have come out about GHF. About everyone kind of knew that it was crooked, but the extent of that has just kind of come out, and it's really pretty extreme. I mean, it's a whole bunch of war crimes just in itself. So then, as well as that, Israeli drones bombed displaced families in Al Muasi, which was supposed to be a safe zone, killing 3 more people. That's including children as well. And then the Red Cross confirms most recent casualties were shot while waiting for food. So the like the narrative from Israel and the US is that, like these become riots and people are getting attacked, and that's why they need to be, and that's why they're saying that the shots, firing shots, is a crowd control maneuver. But then investigators like from Red Cross are saying like, no, it looks like these people were just straight up just standing in line and they were just gunned down. And yeah, survivors have described seeing snipers firing on unarmed civilians as well. So that's pretty fucked up. Yeah, and so that's over 200 killed in the last 48 hours alone. Israel's blockade has created a man-made famine, and they're shooting people now for seeking food. So yeah, on top of that, all the internet and phones cut in Gaza City and South Gaza. So that means that it's really hard now for people to to get the word out. Like even some of the footage I've seen from these events, film, it's IDF footage because it's a lot harder to get for Palestinian footage to get out from there now. So yeah, increasingly fucked up things happening in Israel. Which brings us to Soph. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what Palestine Action have been up to?
Yeah, I'll tell you about some fucked up things happening in the UK, I guess. I mean, like the first headline of this is cool. Palestine Action actionists, which I don't know if there's like less clunky way for me to say that, successfully infiltrated RAF base Rise Norton and decommissioned 2 military aircraft. So there was footage published to Palestine Action's Instagram this week, which is basically like 2 actionists busted into this RAF base. We're not sure how. Rode around on electric scooters. They went up to a couple of military aircraft, and I think they just like spray painted into the engines basically. But it's just one of those things where like they're using what the policy and protocol is to sabotage. So like it doesn't matter whether they did like massive damage to it or not. Like they can't fly if someone's come and like sprayed a spray can into the engine. That is dangerous. And so those aircraft are out of action. I'm not sure, I don't know if they did more than that, but that's what the clip in their Instagram shows. And the Palestine Action said this: Palestine Action decommissioned 2 military aircraft to RAF Brize Norton. Flights leave daily from the base to RAF Akrotin in Cyprus. From Cyprus, British planes collect intelligence, refuel fighter jets, and transport weapons to commit genocide in Gaza. Not only did actionists gain access to the military base, they also, and this is crucial here, escaped undetected. Britain isn't just complicit, it's a direct participant in the genocide in Gaza, but through direct action, we can break the chains of oppression. And that was their statement on Instagram. I think that this highlights something we've been going on and on about from the beginning, which is just like, if they just keep arresting people it's kind of a couple of things. One is like, I said this in The World Is Not Ending. If you let yourselves get arrested, we're looking at you, Extinction Rebellion, then you're going to just use up the people who could be out there doing more to genuinely materially stop the atrocities of the ruling class and the atrocities of imperialism. And the other thing is we've been saying on Red Planet since the start, like if they give harsher and harsher sentences to people for doing stuff like throwing red paint on an Elbit factory or like smashing the glass of a landlord's agent, offices in London who rent to Elbit or this kind of stuff, they're going to give super harsh sentences to those people. Or in the cases of the Filton 18, Mule, correct me if I'm wrong, like they're all still on remand, they haven't faced trial, like their actual sentencing is all pending. They've just been in prison without trial for a really long time now. If you see that kind of stuff and you're going to face criminal charges anyway, but you've made up your mind that you are going to like dedicate basically like the time of your life that prison is going to steal from you, or like you're going to give that away to help the people in Palestine to not be exterminated and ethnically cleansed, to be genocided, like you're going to want to do it in a more effective way. Like this is the reality of doing stricter policing in this way. It's never going to make people just go, oh, I guess I don't care about babies being just fed into a meat grinder then. I was wrong about that. I thought I cared, but actually I don't. So in response, the UK has done the only thing it knows how to do, which is press the big ban button. So Yvette Cooper has decided to prescribe Palestine Action, making it a criminal offense to belong to or support Palestine Action. Now, this is one it's just going to make things kick off very extremely in terms of the protest scene in the UK, because like everyone supports Palestine Action. If they try to take it seriously, like if they basically give terror charges to actionists by default, that's not going to be that different to what they're already doing. But if they try to criminalize and actually police people supporting Palestine action, it's gonna go nowhere except to make a lot of very probably extreme pushback from like the left activist scene in the UK against the police, probably some violence, honestly, because like it's just everyone supports them. When the stuff was happening with the Kurds, I think it was last year now. I said on the show about going to the march, and like we were all chanting like we are all PKK, and PKK, was a proscribed terrorist group. And like the thing is, like if everyone's doing it together, they're just not gonna care. They're not gonna stop you. That's not gonna be a thing, right? Like, yeah. So I don't know. It's I would say don't be scared of sharing a Palestine action story because
Yeah.
Yvette fucking Cooper says like it's a terrorist thing to do.
Yeah.
We're gonna be fine
sorry,
there.
go on.
No,
Yeah,
go.
I think there's a couple of things to sort of add here. One, this does have to go through Parliament, even though, as Soph rightly pointed out, Palestine actionists are being charged with terror offences anyway. So we will see what the opposition is like in Parliament. Of course, lots of people in Parliament are compromised. They are bought by the Israel lobby, whether it's Labour Friends of Israel or Conservative Friends of Israel or whatever it is. There's probably even a fucking Liberal Democrats Friends of Israel, Green Party Friends of Israel. It's just all fucking everywhere. We'll see what kind of opposition there is to it. There may be some opposition to it. I'm not sure if it has to go through the House of Lords, but I think it's important to bring up what the actual terror legislation says in this kind of instance. Sinn Féin, for example, is a prescribed terrorist organization. That is a political party in Northern Ireland, And, there are members of Parliament who are in Sinn Féin. They refuse to take their seats in Parliament. You can literally get around and just be like, yo, Sinn Féin, up the rah. You can post about that on the internet and nothing will happen to you. But again, I guess like the reason that I'm pointing this out is because the actual legislation, if you look at the Terror Act, I think it was after 9/11 or even maybe excuse me, it might have been in the UK after the July the 6th bombings that happened in London in like 2003 or 2006. I can't remember which year it was, but there was a bombing in London. They essentially used that to manufacture consent to have this terror law, or it could have been 9/11 anyway. But essentially, the legislation says any group that is doing violence or sabotage or seeks to change government policy or position. You could literally say that any political party, any pressure group is a terrorist organization because of that legislation. So it's nonsense. It's complete fucking nonsense.
Yeah, I think it's...
And again, just to sort of reiterate what Sophie's saying, what's the very worst that they could happen? Well, they could mobilize the army. They could put us all in jail. If they put us all in jail, there will be a revolution in jails. They know that this is what will happen. And so they won't do that. And so what's the alternative to that? Well, if they really want to go far, they could start to kill people. But if they did that, they know that there would be opposition to that as well. So you have to ask yourself, what kind of effectiveness is this going to have in general? As Sophie said, I just wanted to add some extra stuff on there.
Thanks, Neil. I think that like it's one of these times where we're like, whenever we look back as this all progresses, like I know things are grim, and it's just like lots of grim news a lot of the time. But we are, like this show has been about things are going to be great. It's the old socialist prediction: things are going to be grim. There's going to be a lot of crisis. Things are going to get better. We're going to, organize to fight it. And we're going to build a new world from the ashes of the old. Things have been grim, but I would still describe it as the revolution progresses, because more and more people are being radicalized, more and more people are finding new organizing and mobilizing tactics all the time, new resistance tactics. And that's going to be the next story, actually, is going to be talking about some of the ice resistance tactics. But before that, I just want to say, like, this is a shearing apart of social realities. And like, it is something where if we took current events and put them back a year or back 5 years or back 10 years. Yeah, 10 years ago, if they said we're going to making Palestine Action a prescribed terrorist group, most people when polled 10 years ago, were like, oh, the Middle East, it's kind of complicated. I don't know if I want a one state or two state solution. It seems like the Arabs are very mean to the Israelis, but the Israelis maybe are mean to the Arabs too. Like, oh, this hatred over religion, when will it end? You know, this kind of stuff. I'm like, now everyone fucking knows. And so, like, we are ever more conscious day by day, sometimes minute by minute, that we are constituting a social reality together, and we all have a say in what that social reality is. And it is changed by force, by action, by organizing. Yeah. So speaking of that, Mule, we've seen some interesting stuff, some cool stuff, some interesting stuff from Americans in the spate of government violence from ICE. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's quite interesting the reaction to that, especially in the USA. The head of the imperialist snake ICE resistance tactics have been beginning to evolve. Legendary protesters have been outside hotels where ICE agents have been staying to ensure that they simply won't get any sleep, using car horns, tambourines, trumpets, call and response chants, whacking a spoon against a metal folding chair, all methods of yelling, making noise to make sure that they don't sleep. So KTLA reported a large crowd gathered outside a DoubleTree in Whittier on Wednesday night. That's Wednesday night, just gone this week, while a widely circulated TikTok video from independent photojournalist Jeremy Lee Quinn shows demonstrators on a sidewalk outside a Hilton Garden Inn in Arcadia. A second TikTok video claims that ICE subsequently left the building. Los Angeles magazine reported that also hundreds of demonstrators gathered earlier this week in front of Pasadena's AC Hotel to protest the reported presence of ICE agents there. One Instagram reel from a local musician who attended the event showed demonstrators chasing white cars marked police through the hotel's parking garage, cheering and shouting "Fuera ICE, out ICE" as they drove away.
This is so good. Like this is similar to something Tim told us about, I think, a couple of years ago on the show now. And the irony of it being about disrupting sleep is that I woke up, saw it first thing, and messaged it to the group chat. I was like, this is just like that thing the mongrel mob did. And Tim was like, yeah, the Polynesian Panther's not the mongrel mob. And I was like, fuck.
Very different groups.
Very different. Yeah.
So the other cool stuff that some activists have been doing is in Portland, 250 activists stormed an ICE field office. And you can see this if you're watching and not listening. If you're listening and not watching, there is currently footage showing on our screen of a group of fairly organized individuals with massive shields, goggles, respirators facing off against ICE in a pretty organized manner, to be honest. ICE seem to have crowd dispersal weaponry, less lethals as they are colloquially known, even though we know as they are used by the state fascist thugs, they are not less lethal whatsoever and can still kill you or injure you permanently, blind you. And that is part of a 250 anti-ICE raid against an ICE field office in Portland. That was reported literally by the Department of Homeland Security, so you know that this is worrying the state. They squared off against the federal agents. In a quote from the DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin, said last night, Portland rioters violently targeted federal law enforcement. 250 rioters launched fireworks, shined lasers in officers' eyes, oh no, to temporarily blind them, and stormed an ICE field office. So yeah, they are getting pretty scared at the actual mobilization of people. And I guess we'll talk about this more in the main segment, where we are going to talk about the escalation of imperialist endeavors in the Middle East and how that relates to domestic security. But it's a pretty good indicator of what people are feeling like on the ground in the USA at the moment. So really important stuff, really good. It's great news to hear that there is still resistance to ICE going on despite the huge state funded campaign to suppress them, with the Marines being deployed and the National Guard over the last couple of weeks. So yeah, stay tuned, and we'll keep an eye on any anti-ICE protests that we hear of, and hopefully report on them next week or the week after, whenever we're live. But Tim, why don't you tell us about another great bit of hope, nice bit of hopium?
Mahmoud Khalil has finally been released. After 3 months in detention, the Colombia student and Palestinian rights activist was freed, but remains under heavy restrictions. So he can't leave the US, and even within the US, his travel is pretty limited. So Khalil pledged to keep protesting, even if it means risking rearrest or death. They can kill me. I'll still speak for Palestine, he called out. So yeah, he also highlighted U.S. funding for genocide and Colombia's complicity in apartheid, which everyone remembers the university protests that were kicking off. Yeah, and that even down here in New Zealand, there was a bunch of universities that uh, students from their own university found out, like, oh shit, our university has a bunch of stocks in Israeli, like literally, like weapons manufacturers and things like that, which is insane. Like, why does a university have stocks
Yeah,
in
what?
like the war crimes factory, like
Yeah, literally.
and I mean, it's part of the increased, I guess, like financialization of these kind of universities, where it's like now they have like investment portfolios and all this kind of and like property portfolios and all that kind of stuff, and it's
The
kind of
the
like
go-to thing is like their business is no longer education. Like
exactly,
the
yeah.
biggest role of the biggest money makers for university now is as landlords.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they're going to be drawn to things that are profitable, and like war crimes are profitable.
Until we
So
make them
yeah,
not profitable anymore.
exactly. And
Yeah.
that's the thing, right? That's like what we've said a lot over the years, is that a lot of the time the bottom line for these people is the profit margin. That's capitalism, right? That's one of the big things. So yeah, so to protest in a way that makes it a financial burden is usually really, really effective. And it could be anything from like protesting in a way that makes students unlikely to enroll in the future at the university and things like that. um, can be really effective. So yeah, so there was even universities down here that were forced to divest from
Yeah,
their investments. Columbia was kind of like the flashpoint for a lot of it, though. um,
absolutely. Which I think is why they targeted Khalil. Like I
yeah.
think it was I said this in my video about Trump getting elected, but I think that like and I'm just doing a lot of like, oh, we said this in this episode, but
Mm.
uh like Trump is going to be pushing as hard as he can for the first, like the whole first part, whatever that turns out to be, of his term, like to see what is possible. And
Yeah.
that's like there'll be another wave of it probably after midterms, but like, all of this is about how much resistance has he met with. Like
Yeah.
he came out the gate like day one being like, we're gonna like take Canada and Greenland. And then he
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
immediately laughed out of the room for that, right? So like
Yeah.
it's all about just like how much he's
Yeah,
people say
just
no
seeing
to.
what he can get away with. And even after his first term, like he came in a lot hotter this time, because he already knew that there was things he could get away with from his, and he had a team that was like a little bit more wise to what they could do from what they got away with the first time. So, it's like just continuing that game. So yeah, the judge called Khalil's detention highly unusual, since he is a legal resident. He's non-violent, that's not like any kind of violence charges or anything like that, and he's no flight risk. But the US is still trying to deport him, and that's the Biden administration. Yes, yeah, the Biden administration, not just Trump, is also appealing his release, which proves that both parties are silencing dissent around Palestine. Like, this is, there's a lot of people I've been seeing over the last couple of days being like, "Why didn't you vote for the lady?" And it's like, the lady would have done the same thing. The Democrats and Republicans pretty much have exactly the same position on Israel and Iran and everything. So yeah, so that's it, right? Protesters are getting jailed while politicians get to, kill endless amounts of brown children, and it doesn't matter whether it's in Gaza or whether they're kids in cages or whatever. Like but if you speak up against it, that makes you a threat to, or un-American, or whatever they want to say. It's the same, like, the university gets to invest in these wars, invest in these crimes and everything like that. But if you say that's not a great idea, that's where things become illegal. So yeah. Even the judge really did kind of do the bare minimum. Like, Khalil is still facing deportation. And it's just like, justice isn't just getting him off the hook. Justice is abolishing ICE, and actually addressing Colombia's ties to Israel and other similar universities, other businesses, other financial entities, and the government sending aid, now military support and aid, to Israel. And there's for every student protester like Mahmoud, there's also, there's like dozens to hundreds to maybe even thousands of other political prisoners in America for other, like bogus political crimes that also need to be freed. This is everything from like, like black radicals to environmentalists, all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah,
yeah.
people, it's something that I think even Andreas Malm points out, is like, we don't talk enough about the Green Scare. Like,
Yeah.
it was done largely like very quickly and effectively, and without talking about it by the US government, like as soon as Department of Homeland Security and all of the, what was it called, Patriot Act powers came in.
Yeah.
Like, as much as Alex Jones might want to like tell everyone it's going to come and take away your guns, like it was immediately used to purge environmentalist groups.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's like a thing all over the world. That we've seen when the state increases police powers based on like a fascist threat or something like that, and then is immediately wields it against left-wing causes. And yeah, which is why I'm always super sus of any kind of narrative in the news about like annoying eco protesters and all this kind of stuff. And it's just like, yeah, all that kind of stuff is just it's, I mean, I guess it's manufacturing consent, really. But why don't you, Soph, tell us a little bit? This is kind of related, actually. The crime and policing bill that we've got moving through the UK Parliament at the moment.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, this sucks so bad. Okay, for our more internet social media argument inclined audience members, I have an argument for you to seek out and find in this story, because I've been seeing so much posting from people who clearly like either don't know about like the authoritarian moves by Starmer's government, or or don't care in some cases, because there's some people who are like carceral feminists and are like more like prison sentences for people who are like, for gay bashing or whatever. This is great, right? But there's this bill that's currently going through British Parliament. It's the Crime and Policing Bill, and it is being reported absolutely nowhere. Like, you look for this and you're going to find posts, like you're going to find some leftists talking about it, but like literally the majority of people talking about it is people saying, whoa, they voted to decriminalize abortion, they voted to make it more of a severe crime to do an anti-queer hate crime. And it's like, that's not what this bill is. That's some like window dressing. And also, yeah, so as author of Abolition Revolutions, Shanice McBean called it in her article about it this week, this is authoritarianism with a dash of identity politics. This bill is fucking scary as hell. And before I get super into it, let me just quickly note on like go in a little bit on these identity politics, like crowd pleasers for progressives, to explain why they are literally all bullshit. So decriminalizing abortion. It was technically a crime to get an abortion in the UK, with certain exceptions, and that's how abortion has been legal in the UK, is that there are exceptions to the crime of abortion. And basically the exceptions are all the things people like most people find most reasonable about an abortion, right? Like up to a certain point through the pregnancy, and like with doctors' supervision and with two doctors signing off, and all these like supposed safeguards, but they're also just, it becomes just the normal process. They are going to stop arresting someone for getting an abortion outside of those parameters. They've legalized getting like like I don't want to say like all unregulated abortions are necessarily unsafe abortions, but they've legalized getting like unregulated abortions, and certainly it's going to be a push for people to get private abortions if they're beyond those terms. They've not changed the terms under which they're providing access to abortion like under the NHS, so it's no change, except they're not going to like punish people who can get pregnant in the worst conceivable way if they like do stuff to survive. So huge round of applause for them technically improving it this much, a tiny little bit. Yay! Yeah, so complete fucking bullshit to say they're decriminalizing abortion. It's like that's not a fair description of what's happening here at all. They've put in harsher charges for anti-queer hate crimes. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna help anyone very much. Like, we all know it's reported all the time that all the British prisons are full, like just completely fucking full, to the point where they're re-releasing a whole ton of people, and it's like the front page of the right-wing rags every week is like 50 bajillion sex offenders released because of Starmer's broken Britain. It's like, okay, so under that environment, they're going to introduce harsher charges for anti-queer hate crimes. I would like them to allocate some money, preferably money that would have been spent on police, to like things that will improve the like material conditions of people so they won't want to take out their frustration on queer people. Put money into feminist education stuff that will make people understand queer people better and more accepting of them, so less people do anti-queer hate crimes instead of just the people who do go to prison for longer. Are you kidding me? And then the third point was going to be like a bunch of Nordic model bullshit for sex workers, which like we do not have time on the show right now to explain like why that is not helpful to sex workers. But there's so much thought about it online that you'll be able to find if you want to go understand. We also talked to V from Swarm a few months ago now, who was very helpful in just talking like a general lay of the land for the politics around sex work. That was a great episode. But if you don't already know that the Nordic model, which basically like makes it legal to do sex work but illegal to purchase sex or be the customer in sex work in any way, this doesn't make sex workers safer. Like, of course it doesn't, because then the person who holds all the power in the interaction, the client, is like hiding and is criminalized. But specifically, there were two amendments to the bill going through which were being debated. NC2, which would target so-called third parties. So a lot of people pointed to like OnlyFans with this, because it was just like third parties that facilitate for commercial use, like sexual exploitation. OnlyFans would be a big deal to a lot of people, but like there's a lot of people who are doing like survival sex work who are dependent on a very, very, very small number of specific companies that like arrange, like, offer a service for clients to be able to find sex workers. And it would literally immediately like nuke that entire thing, like making those people who are doing survival sex work have to turn to pimps, have to turn to like tart cards, have to turn to like way more risky and scary and like unsafe means of trying to find clients. Clause NC3 was criminalizing clients by making it illegal to pay for or provide any benefit in exchange for sexual services. So that is the one that would be like just the Nordic model, basically. I guess it would also be it could arguably also be applied to people doing like findom or like sugar baby stuff, which like that's a whole other conversation about the kind of spectrum of sex work that exists between like arranged through a sex work site, go and get cash in hand to have sex, versus like people in a relationship where one partner is wealthy, right? Like there is a spectrum here, but like, yeah. Anyway, the Swarm and a bunch of other sex worker and harm reduction organizations made a big push to tell people to contact their MPs to oppose this stuff. I don't know if that was particularly successful, but both of the those amendments did get dropped. So like that wasn't in the bill as it's currently going through. Anyway, so there's all of your progressive window dressing. Would have been bullshit anyway. Some of it didn't even go through. Now let's talk about the police powers. So I'm going to read from Shanice McBean's article on Substack. No hyperbole or lyricism is needed to illustrate the authoritarianism at the core of this bill. Have a look at it for yourself. Concealing identity at a protest. Protecting your identity at a protest will be an arrestable offense. You may be able to level a defense related to religious or health reasons, but this defense can only be made in retrospect after you've been charged. Pyrotechnics. Simply possessing pyrotechnics, broadly defined, at a protest will be an arrestable offense. I can imagine a scenario where lighting candles at tactical locations like the Israeli embassy or a politician's home will be criminalized using this law. Protesting near a place of worship. Police will be able to shut down, put conditions on, and criminalize a protest if it is in the vicinity of a place of worship. This is a direct attempt to criminalize Palestine solidarity marches and solidify Jews as the ideological buffer used to clamp down on protest and demonize Muslims, but will also prevent sexual abuse survivors from protesting outside of churches, for example. Climbing on memorials. This is a whole like specific British brain one. Can't be climbing on war memorials, not allowed. They're making a unique crime for if you climb on a war memorial. I'll skip over it for now. We can get into it in the bonus episode. But police will be able to deport people with valid limited leave to remain. This expands existing powers that currently only apply to people with no leave to remain. This new power would mean, for example, migrants who receive a conditional caution for protest activity will be made to leave the country by police if they have limited leave to remain. This is eerily reminiscent of Trump's proto-fascist use of ICE to kidnap and deport migrants who protest in solidarity with Palestine. We're going to see like a ton of cases that are not millions of miles away from Mahmoud Khalil's case in the UK because of this law. Facial recognition powers. All police forces, the National Crime Agency, and Independent Office of Police Conduct will be given access to DVLA driving license records, including facial images, which can be used for facial recognition searches. Warrantless home searches. This one is terrifying. Police will be able to search someone's home for certain stolen goods without a warrant. It is clear to anyone with sense that this will be massively abused by police who will use the pretense of stolen goods to conduct warrantless searches, as they already use the pretense of smell of cannabis or reports of someone matching your description to harass Black and working class communities with stop and search. I'll keep this tangent concise, but I literally had a knock on the door from the pigs the other day. I might have talked about it on the show even, but like where I had seen some guys who were like, looked like they were a bit shifty doing something, and the police knocked on my door and were like, we're getting a ping from a stolen phone at this address. And I was like, I didn't say anything to them because I just didn't remember until afterwards, but I was like, oh, those guys had definitely snatched someone's phone and they were hiding the phone. And that's why it's pinging from here, is because it's right by here that they were doing it. Oh, that makes sense. But like at the time, they were like, can we come in and search it? And I was like, no, thanks. And I just shut the door and it was fine, right? But under this power, they could have said, we're going to come in and search it because we're going to come in and search your house because we are getting a ping from this location. And like, that's a first-hand example I've got of like, I know that their ping was wrong. And like their like where the phone was like, you know, like that is not that accurate. Like it was closer to a lot of my neighbors' houses than mine even. And they said on the doorstep, yeah, this stuff cannot be pretty accurate. It can kind of ping all over the place. And I was like, yeah, okay, bye-bye. Like, but they could just come in,
and I mean,
if that
like,
was the case.
To me, that reads like they could then, if they just wanted to gain access to a property for whatever reason, they could just say something similar. You know, they could be like, "Oh, there's a stolen phone somewhere in the area. It's definitely not one that we like threw over your back fence or anything like that."
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like you know, like they always use such flimsy justification for like, you know, stop and search stuff. Anyway, it's like
I want to be clear here to like, if anyone else is in the exact same scenario as me, like, you know, I'm a white lady. They were not going to be like pushing to try and get inside my house. I will say the reassuring thought that also came to me later was like, oh, like they are responding to an immediate call because someone's phone just got snatched just now. And like, this is not like any kind of, this is going to be, they are considering the case closed because they asked and I said, no, go away. And they couldn't find it. Like this is, the police don't put serious effort into finding people's snatched phones. But as Shanice McBean has said in the article here, like this will obviously be massively abused. We've got 2 more points to look at. So respect orders. Asbos are back, baby. um, I hope that the rest of the world knows about Asbos and about like it's such perfect British brain. But basically these are just yeah, like antisocial behavioral orders just to try and like tell the working class to just have some manners. Is the idea. A rebrand of ASBOs, which failed because they were never intended to address the economic, political, social, health, and spatial root causes of antisocial behavior. Police will be able to apply it to the courts to restrict someone's movement or require them to do certain activities, such as attending an alcohol awareness course. Breaching a respect order will be a criminal offense. So the police can now just tell you to, you know, they just give you a copy of 12 Rules for Life on the street, and you have to follow it or else. Expansion of prevent style laws. This is fucking horrible and must be fought like tooth and claw to be stopped. This is disgusting. Youth diversion orders will be introduced that will put restrictions on young people deemed at risk of radicalization. Given the move to proscribe Palestine Action as a terrorist organization and the construction of Just Stop Oil as extremist, it is evident that youth social justice activism will be targeted by this. Absolutely, for sure. We've seen Starmer's cops coming to grab people for planning to do an action for Just Stop Oil and like give them terror charges. Like this is nightmare shit. Retail crime. All shop thefts will be triable either way, regardless of the value of the items or the reason for their appropriation. This will end the deprioritization of thefts under £200 and expose people to harsher penalties, including possible prison time. This is a clear attempt to criminalize poverty and destitution. Yeah, I mean, the whole entire thing, as I said at the top of this piece, it's just Britain slamming the ban button as hard as possible, because that's like the only policy in the British mind is just like, well, we'll just ban it. We'll just ban it, right? Like the system, which has been working for us now for hundreds of years, of like taking the people who are the most wretched of the earth, the most deprived, and the most like, you know, exploitable by our construction and exploiting the hell out of them. It just keeps lining our pockets. So like, nothing to change there, nothing to question there. Oh, they're trying to protest it. Ban protests. Oh, they're turning to drugs because their lives are miserable. Ban drugs. Oh, they're like, you know, just like all this over and over again. A
I'm sure it's going to work out really,
ban
really well.
spitting, you know, like
Yeah.
it's just all of this all the time. Ban, ban, ban. Yeah, so I think we will have a longer chat about this bill in the week at some point, because like I want to get into it and also I think talk about some of the like organizing opportunities to resist here, because McBean, who I was quoting from there, was part of the Kill the Bill coalition, which was against police powers a few years ago, which was, you know, in some ways very successful. And yeah, like if we see orgs like hers, Sisters Uncut, you know, we've spoken to Copwatch and that before, like this is a big opportunity for people to rally around pushing back on Starmer's authoritarianism. Or it's a big opportunity for reform to come in after Starmer and use these powers to just be uncomplicated Nazis. So that's cool. We are gonna start talking about Iran next. So I think Mule, you can lead us into the main topic of the show with this. But I just want to say before we do that, we are a show. We are supported by our patrons at patreon.com/red_planet. We'll talk more about that at the end. But yeah, Mule, let's talk about Iran.
Yes, let's talk about Iran. So we have a segment here talking about the breaking news, which is America actually decided to bomb Iran. US military is now involved and implicated in the assault on Iran. And that is basically to target the Fordow, Isfahan, and Natanz nuclear sites, despite evidence to the contrary from the IAEA. That's the International Association of Energy something. It's to do with nukes. An International Atomic Energy Advisory Board or something to that effect. They've been compromised, essentially. People have speculated that they're compromised by the Israelis because, of course, the Israelis have nukes. They don't participate in inspections with the IAEA. Iran doesn't have nukes. They have participated in inspections from the IAEA. And also US Intelligence Security Chief Tulsi Gabbard said Iran does not have nukes, categorically. So despite all this evidence to the contrary, Trump was like, right, B-2 stealth bombers, bomb these sites, Fordo, Isfahan, and Natanz. Essentially, Netanyahu's urging. It's my personal belief. This is just the reporting. This is the from the sources and the information that we got. But it's my personal belief that I don't think that this is at Netanyahu's urging. I think Trump and Netanyahu both want this. I don't think he's been pulled into this. I don't think he's been persuaded into this. I think that Trump. It's U.S. hegemony. It's imperialist. They want a monopoly on oil. That's what this is all about.
I was talking to a friend about this the week before, and like she was saying, like, yeah, I think the people are talking as if Trump and Netanyahu have fallen out, and that's just bullshit. Like, there's just I don't even know. Like, the two guys could not like each other. That would be fine. Like, literally wouldn't matter. The two states like each other and have a very specific relationship, and that relationship is imperialism, and Israel is a white supremacist settler colonial outpost for American imperialism in the Middle East. And like, this is all, like, if you see them even pretending to not like each other, it's just kayfabe. Like, America wants Israel to look strong and independent in the region, but also like close enough to daddy that everyone knows like daddy's gonna like beat them up if they fuck with a special little boy, Israel.
Exactly, yeah. So you always know when Netanyahu and Israel are talking to a certain crowd, because when Netanyahu does an address in English, it's to Americans and English-speaking people in Europe.
It's the same with all Israeli propaganda. Like, they release so much stuff that is not in Hebrew whatsoever, is in it is English to appeal to Americans. Like, that's
1,000%. Because when they speak in Hebrew, they're like, we're going to murder every single last brown person in the Middle East whatsoever. New white nation, new Aryan nation, let's fucking go. Concentration camps, put them in gas chambers. Like, they just say that stuff.
When they speak in English, they're a birthday boy on his first day who's so confused and has just wet himself, and I don't know why everyone's being mean to me. And when they speak in Hebrew, they are like if Hitler had a baby and it was Hitler.
Yeah. That really tickled me. He praised Trump. He was going, thank you so much, big Papa Trump. Thank you for bombing the bad men. Thank you so much. You destroyed Fordow. There's no way they can make nuclear weapons now. They're never going to do it. They should submit to regime change. Khamenei should hand himself in and bend over, and we will reinstall Reza Pavlani, the Shah's son, just like you did in the 70s, but we're going to get into that. That's kind of where it is. Khamenei previously warned of irreparable damage if the US got involved in the war. So now the Houthis, Hezbollah, Iraqi militias may indeed escalate. The Houthis also announced an air blockade of Israel this week as well. After campaigning against endless wars, Trump greenlit a major escalation, ignoring his own intelligence agency's assessments. Trump lied to his anti-war base, proving again that US presidents serve the military-industrial complex and not voters. The strike was not self-defense. It was unprovoked aggression to please Netanyahu and oil barons. If Iran retaliates by blocking the Strait of Hormuz, gas prices could skyrocket, worsening inflation worldwide. If Iran retaliates hard, it risks full-scale US war. If it holds back, it looks weak, which empowers hardliners domestically. Either way, working-class Iranians will suffer from sanctions and bombs. I think it's important to sort of take a little step back here and just reiterate what me and Soph were just sort of confirming there, in that it is completely the US endeavor in the region to have a monopoly on oil. If they have a monopoly on oil, if they could control that resource, that means that they have leverage in any kind of negotiation or potential conflict with China, Russia, India, South Africa, all these other nations, South America, stand against them. This is constantly why they're trying to do things like regime change in Venezuela, because they produce their own oil. They've nationalized their own oil. In a similar way, I believe Iran has nationalized oil, or maybe privatized, state capitalist to a degree. It's essentially that. And again, everybody needs to remember that that you cannot rely on the Democrats, as we opened in the cold open with. You cannot rely on the Democrats to do anything about this. This kind of a war, this kind of aggression in the Middle East is a bipartisan issue. They love it. It's all part of the military industrial complex. It's all part of APAC. It's all connected. Again, electoral politics will not save us. You can absolutely throw your weight behind someone with strong social policies like Zoran Mamdani in New York for New York City mayor or something like that. But he alone is not going to save everybody. If you just let him, if you just let him sort of like sit in office, eventually at some point the lobbyists are going to get hold of him. He's gonna maybe the fucking Mossad will find some compromise on him or something like that, and he'll have to start saying Am Yisrael Chai and we should kill brown babies in Gaza because if we don't they'll grow to be terrorists. It's one of them. It's like this is just what you have to remember. We have to combine the support of politicians like that with organizing, otherwise it's completely hopeless. So I think that we should use this episode to sort of talk about like the history of Iran as an enemy to empire and what this sort of says in terms of how empire is in decline. I saw some people post last night that this is the last whimper of a dying empire. It very well may be. Who knows? I think that there could be retaliation. I believe that Iran has already agreed. The defense ministry has already agreed, and they've put it out in a press release that they are going to close the Strait of Hormuz. If this happened as is in the sort of report that I just read at the start, then yeah, there will be so much inflation. It very well may plunge us into a recession. If they decide to, there has been talk before of them attacking oil fields. If they were to set alight the oil fields in the Gulf states that are compromised puppet states like Qatar, Oman, Saudi Arabia, there very well could be a huge economic crisis, similar to 1930s depression. And there very well could be, as a result of that, if we're talking about regime change, there could certainly be regime change in America as a result of that. Certainly in other countries as well. It's interesting to sort of think about that as a result of this. But I guess let's go sort of like right back to the history. I think, Soph, you probably know a bit more about this than me. But if I remember rightly, Iran, during the time of the Cold War, sort of like the first kind of era, the Soviets were supporting Iran in like a similar way to Afghanistan. They had a popular revolution, I think, which was then couped by the imperial nations of the imperial core.
I don't know a ton about the history of Iran, so I don't know. I'm going to be like super useful in that discussion.
Yeah.
I wanted to say on what you were just saying.
Yeah.
So let me start over. I wanted to say on what you were just saying, like, we've been talking a bit about like the way this is specifically about you saying like last whimper of a dying empire. Like that is the polar opposite of a take I've seen loads, but very flippantly, where people are going like, haha, World War III. Like I don't think I've seen people so seriously going like, this is going to be World War III and we're going to have like Putin backing Iran and China like secretly supporting their side and all the allied blah 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 and all this. Like I don't think that's going to happen either. Like I've seen a lot of people memeing around it. I've seen one or two people who are like, oh fuck, it's really happening. But yeah, I think a lot more of the sentiment I've seen has been closer to this. Like this is just the last whimper of a dying empire. Like this is it just giving in. But I'm not sure I agree with that either. I'm not sure I agree with that either. Like, I obviously do think the American empire is dying, and we've been saying this the whole time. I think that it is relevant and it features in it. I think recognizing the real possibility of broader war in the region, if not war in the broader than the region of the Middle East, all this is worthwhile. Not to the point where we should be going like, oh my God, it's World War III. It's not that. But like, I think that we should, I just want to bring back up what we've been saying about what Trump's plan is, which is just to fold up America like a carnival, like a circus that's gone out of business and needs to move on to the next town. Like it's gotten all the punters in. There's no one left to sell tickets to. And so we're moving on. We're going to pack everything up and roll away. And I think this Israel strategy really, really signifies that, right? Which is
Yeah.
similar to Ukraine. They can't pay the bills to keep the lights on anymore. They don't have the money anymore, and they can't be just directly propping up. Like America gives Israel so much money that Israel has a national health service, right? Like any American watching or listening to this should be fucking livid. America
Mm,
gives Israel so much money, it entirely covers the cost of their national health service. And it's not
yeah.
for that, it's for the military. But
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's more than enough money for that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and they can no longer be doing this, right? They need to wind things in order to survive as their like imperialist power wanes. And so the necessary kayfabe is showing off how big and strong Israel is on its quote unquote on its own, pretending it's on its
Yeah.
own enough, but saying that also like we will still fight you if you fight Israel too much. So as we were saying, I think we talked about this last week that like clearly America is trying to provoke Iran into attacking Israel on a big
Yeah.
enough and gruesome enough way that there'll be like support for it, for America attacking Iran. Nah, Trump doesn't even need that, right? Like we
Yeah.
saw the single missile attack. Was that this week? The single missile attack by Iran, and it like just completely
Yes.
Oh
dodged
yeah.
all of Israel's, like not just the Iron Dome, but like two other missile defense
Yeah.
systems that are much more advanced and hit its target. And it was like kind of a perfect response to that obvious baiting. Like, we want you
Mm,
to attack us more, so daddy will get mad. And they just go, okay, I could kill you right now,
yeah.
but so stop it. Like,
Yeah. I think it has been interesting as well, seeing a lot of these strikes. A lot of these Iranian strikes against Israel are directly attacking the infrastructure of Israel's financial infrastructure, let's say, which is like, been really really impressive to see, because their casualties are not that high. Like it's pretty small, whereas like we're seeing attacks from Israel against, I mean, attacks from Israel against everyone, let's be real, but where they're trying to maximize civilian casualties. But I think yeah, it is really interesting to see, even like the attacks from the US against the nuclear sites. They were evacuated, and like there was only minimal damage at Fordell, I think. I don't think so the other ones, but yeah, it's like Israel's attacking like cities and the city blocks and like residential areas and stuff, whereas America and Iran are going for strategic sites, which I think is a little bit more like I think that's where the fight
well,
really
again,
gets
like
won.
Israel wants to make them mad, right?
Yeah, 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 exactly. And then I think like it's pretty, I mean, I think and there has been notably not much footage. And I mean, obviously, the Knesset actually passed a bill saying that it's illegal to film and post any footage of like missiles or any kind of like impacts or anything like that in Israel. So it's obviously there's a limit on what we're seeing there. But what we're seeing from Iran is kind of like, like I feel like Iran really, like they kind of have this in the bag. And I think maybe what the American attack was supposed to be the big one, especially with Trump's message, like the thing he put out on Twitter, being like, like we have to work for peace now or some shit like that, was supposed to be this
Now is the time
gigantic
for
attack.
peace. Yeah.
Yeah, like it was supposed to be this big thing that America goes like, all right, kids, shut the fuck up, and drops all these bombs to show that it's still the big kid in the room, and it just didn't happen
I
like
don't
that.
care who started it, I'm finishing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 And it just like did not
Yeah.
work out like that. And then Iran are like still taking out like, some like really interesting interesting targets in Israel and stuff. So I wonder if like I wonder what that next move is. Is it further like
Mm.
increased escalation? Like, are we
Mm.
looking at fucking nukes and shit like that? Or is it
Yeah.
that America eventually just goes like, like, okay, fuck it. We actually are losing popular support for this, and we can't
The
continue to be
the the
directly
mil
involved.
the military is already at like incredibly low morale. They just
Yeah.
deployed the military against their own citizenry. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not.
yeah.
Yeah, we already said this a few weeks ago. I'm doing it again,
Mm.
saying that we said this thing, but like, uh, 20 years ago, America used a terror attack that it could have prevented but didn't. Hold your conspiracies. As justification to go and like kick the fuck out of like two incredibly poor countries in the Middle East in front of everyone with the participation of a ton of other European nations, rich nations, to show just how big and strong it is. So everyone should be scared they'll do the same thing to you. And now it's 20 years later. Everyone in the world fucking loathes America, loathes the American ruling class, I should say, to be clear.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I mean, I
no
think that
one
does
wants
it.
to
I think
join
it does
in.
expand to American civilians because
People
you
are
know
mad at American civilians, but I don't think it's just. I think,
no. It's
yeah,
overwhelmingly the
yeah.
idea of America.
And
When they
now,
say death to America, it's the
oh,
idea
of
of
course,
America.
yeah, of course. And
Yeah,
like, and now they're gonna pick a fight with the biggest, like one of the biggest, most powerful enemy they could, short of maybe like if they completely turned on Saudi Arabia and said "fuck
yeah,
you" instead of bombing it. Like, yeah,
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 yeah. I think yeah, it's really important. Just like so, everybody kind of gets why this is happening. Like this is absolutely it's definitely two things. It could be walking and chewing gum. Yes, Israel could be completely insane, unhinged, psychotic, Zionist, fascist, exactly like Hitler in Nazi Germany, having like fucking 10 wars on 10 different fronts. Because you got to remember, they're not just attacking Iran right now, they're attacking Syria. They're literally pushing further and further into Syria. They're still doing operations in Gaza. They're still massacring people in Gaza, as we reported earlier. I think they're also bombing Yemen. I think they're also bombing Beirut and Lebanon. This is absolutely the truth. This is absolutely the case. But also, it is that continued enemy of American empire that the US absolutely wants its rabid attack dog.
yeah,
Sorry to be speciesist there, but like rabid attack dog Israel, it's the best way to describe it. Unfortunately, as that essentially to
yeah,
basically cause so much trouble in the region. And the historically, the reason why this is true is because historically, the imperialist powers have meddled and interfered and done interventionism in Iran in the same way that they have done in various other countries in the region. They basically had a prime minister called Mossadegh, who nationalized oil, and he was couped by MI6 and CIA.
Yeah, by the UK and the US, like immediately cooed him, and
Yeah,
then brought
yeah,
back. It
they
was
they
like the Shah. They went back to I don't know.
yeah,
It's so
the Shah is like
frustrating.
a
Yeah,
like a
when you fund a
monarchist.
terrorist
yeah,
group to deal with the terrorist group, you fund it to get rid of the terrorist group, to fund it to get rid of the terrorist group.
yeah,
To
yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
like the Shah
literally.
was like they kind of it was Western influence that kind of put him in place anyway after like in the wake of World War II and all this kind of stuff. It's
Yeah.
like it gets pretty messy around then, but it's like a history of Iran is like a history of like the US and the UK trying to take control of the region.
Simply meddling as soon as they realized there was this black substance that comes out of the ground that they
Absolutely,
could
yeah.
make so many weapons with and so many different applications for production. They were just like, yeah, we gotta destroy this country's ability to for its people to be self-determined and have sovereignty.
yeah, I think if
They
we,
Yeah,
sorry, if one of the simplest things about like learning from history here that we can say is like when we're talking about imperialism, it's not a metaphor. And if you like think about a like colonial outpost of like the British Empire that is in a war with like six of its neighbors or something simultaneously,
It
if
actually reminds
that
me of
story
the
is gonna if that story is gonna end with like that nation still being there as a settler
yeah,
colonial outpost, it's gonna be when the empire is fucking booming and expanding and it's just
yeah.
gotten there, and it's not gonna end well if the empire is currently shrinking. It's gonna be,
Yeah.
yeah, we're like getting our guys out on helicopters and you're completely overwhelmed. Like,
It
RIP.
reminds me a lot of South Africa and Rhodesia with like the border war, where it was like
yeah,
they were just like fighting everyone on each. side. I actually only recently found out that South Africans call it the border war.
Yeah.
I have like a South African coworker, because everywhere else it's like the Namibian Independence War and all these other things. So it's kind of like, everyone else is like, this is glorious, like independence and
Everyone else calls
decolonization.
it the cool war, and
Yeah,
South
yeah,
Africa
yeah,
calls
yeah.
it the bad.
dawn
All the
of-
white South
war.
Africans are like, this is the racist war, mate.
Yeah.
This is the racist war when they were so racist to whites they kicked us out of the country.
Okay, where are we with Iran? What's
So
next?
yeah, no, I was sort of like, but yeah, what you have to remember about Iran is that like everybody, so because this is it's imperative that we understand that all of these like appeals to hatred for the regime in Iran, like talking about like Ayatollah Khamenei now, they go back to the Shah, essentially. The Shah that was installed, the monarchist that was installed by MI6 and CIA was worse, had far more repressive policies than Mossadegh. And then after that, there was another revolution when the exiled Ayatollah Khomeini, who was the sort of central figure of the Iraq-Iran war, Ayatollah Khomeini, he was exiled previously, and the Shah was so unpopular that there was a revolution where they were like, we want this guy back, even though he's not that good. It's literally like having a revolution so that you can like get Joe Biden back. Basically, that's like how insane it was.
Yeah.
And then they had a war with Iraq, which of course,
I mean, there was like the fucking hostage crisis, which was huge. That was like at the time that was like gigantic news. But I mean, these days it seems like we have like a fucking hostage crisis every fucking year or so. But
exactly, yeah.
Mm.
And then since then it has just been this like continued. Of course, Iran completely supports the resistance in Palestine. It supports the resistance, that Yemen shows to all of its oppressors and stuff like that. And the Iran nuclear program began being a thing in 2005. So everyone will remember the name because you have to say it as if you're about to say, I'm a dinner jacket, but you stop before you say kit. You go, Ahmadinejad. So Mahmoud Ahmadinejad.
This is the most dad joke way to tell people to remember.
I know. I got this from Mock the Week. This is a bit from Mock the Week. If you ever remember Mock the Week,
sounds like a Mock the Week bit.
It's a Mock the Week bit. So just so everyone knows, this is not like a deeply racist mule bit.
Oh,
it is just a Mock the Week bit. That is deeply racist that I'm referencing, but it is actually a pretty, if you don't try and pronounce Farsi names properly,
that's your mnemonic for it. Got you.
Yeah. So Ahmadinejad, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad basically was like, we should have nuclear weapons because Israel is insane. It keeps bombing everybody. Israel keeps saying that they want us to be killed. They want to kill all Arabs. We need to sort something out here. This is when Benjamin Netanyahu started his completely fucked campaign, just like standing in front of the UN with like a cartoon bomb that said like, it had like filled levels of like 30%, 50%, 90%. And he was saying in like 2009, it's here, it's at 90%. They've nearly made the atomic bomb. It's nearly done. And it's just like completely fucked. Because of course, Israel has atomic weapons, stole the ideas of atomic weapons from South Africa and the USA. I think the apartheid South Africans were like, we know how to make atomic weapons. Here you go. And then they also did spying on like
spiritual successor.
Yeah, literally, like, we're getting fucked, so you might as well have these. And then they did their own spying on the USA, which the USA was like, what the fuck, bro? Why are you doing that? And then Israel was like, don't worry about it. And they were like, yeah, you're right. It's fine. Essentially, that is the sort of brief history of how we have got to now. So the reason that I bring that up is because constantly there has been this specter of Iran that has haunted American imperialist foreign policy for almost a century. It's like Iran is the big bad. We need to take care of
the
Iran.
devil.
They're the devil. They're horrible. They keep saying death to America. They keep saying death to Israel. Why do they say this? Don't ask that question. It's just this continued. The Iranians are evil, horrible. The regime needs to change. We need to have regime change. So yeah, that's kind of like quick update on the history of Iran and why we're at this point and why America wants to bomb it. So, we did speak about this on Red Planet. We did cover it last week, sort of like what happened, because it's been over 7 days now since the Israeli assault on Iran. But the way that it happened was Iran was in negotiations with the USA, and then all of a sudden Israel went, now's the time. And this could be, if you want to analyze it in this way, this could be analyzed as Israel being that horrific Hitlerite fascist state that's just doing whatever it wants, a belligerent in the region. Or you could analyze it in a way that Trump wanted this to happen. This is a way to pound Iran into submission so that they accept the deal of you cannot have any nuclear programs whatsoever, not even to benefit your people, not even for nuclear energy, not even to trade, not even to mine, nothing, because that will be the deal that is being given to Iran. And again, it's like this is bullying. If you think about it logically, what has the US and Israel done? They bombed them while they were in negotiations, even though they said, we're not going to do this. We're not going to go to war. We're not going to take any military action while we're in negotiations. They literally assassinated the head of negotiations and every single nuclear scientist that was a head nuclear scientist in Tehran. Again, proving that Israel does not have to bomb entire city blocks in order to, single out a single person, because these people were targeted with heat-seeking infrared missiles that explode in a very sort of like small area. So that's kind of where we're at. And then the breaking news is, as we said earlier, they bombed Iran at these nuclear sites last night. Now, apparently the reporting out of Iran at the minute is that they haven't actually caused irreparable damage. So there's either one of three things happening here. Either this is Iran being like, yeah, it's fine, whatever, but actually it did do irreparable damage, which is possible because in times of war, nation states do propaganda, who knows? It's also maybe the fact that, as most military sickos in the US have been speculating all week, the bunker buster bombs that these B-52 bombers have been taking over are actually not powerful enough to penetrate.
Bobby Sherborne's bunker bomber. B-52 bunker bomber.
Bobby Binger's a bunker buster. Yeah.
Bobby Sherborne's bunker buster batty. It's not good enough. There's just simply no way. In the sort of like grand scheme of things, you've got to think about like the Earth and how much it has withstood human meddling, right? We are essentially, well, we're not just everyday people like you and me. Capitalism and imperialism is a cancer on the Earth, right? We are killing our planet. We know this. Global warming is happening. It's disgusting. Yet the Earth persists, and yet nature persists. It simply does. If you take this into the sort of the realm of, well, how powerful is the Earth? Earth itself, literal ground, rock, is naturally just the most fucking hard substance to get through. If you build a nuclear facility deep underground, there's just not going to be a way that you're going to get under there unless you do some kind of commando special forces operation. Even with bunker buster bombs, you would have to come and do this many, many times. The more times you do this, the more resources, the more money you spend.
Solidarity to a bunch of dirt.
literally losing to dirt, losing to sand. So that's kind of where we're at. So it's either that or it's either that. And I can't remember. I think there was a third thing I was going to say, and I can't remember what it was, or maybe I've done two. The other thing I was going to say was that maybe it's a show of force from America, just another sort of like slap to be like, yo, submit. That could be what it is. I don't know. There have also been talks about Trump. I nearly said Hitler then. That's quite funny, but I was literally going to say Trump. I'm referring to Trump. In my brain, I was like, Hitler has said He's going to assassinate Khamenei. Yeah, said that he's going to assassinate Khamenei. We're trying to find him. We don't know where he is and stuff like this. We may do it. We may not. Just being crazy, like
this is where everyone's
like
talking about the 2 weeks thing, right? Trump's like, in a couple of weeks, we'll see. Like this is his way of saying it could be like we're right on it. We could be doing it never.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like he's going, we might do it in 2 weeks. It's kind of the same thing that he did when they were doing the negotiations. He was like, right, we're doing negotiations, don't worry about it. And during this time, he was doing his tour of the Middle East. The Israeli, we spoke about this last week because I had my conspiracy theorist tinfoil hat moment when I thought that Trump was going to be like, they've been saying it, folks, from the river to the sea.
From the river to the sea. Free
it's a Shia summer. I love Iran. Khamenei, he's my best friend.
Like that old video of him talking about like that, that video where it's like talking about women wearing hijab and stuff like that, and he's just like, he's like, maybe one day I want to wear a hijab. I don't have to get ready. It's like, when he was just throwing things out there to try and see what his base was responding to, it would have been
just
incredible.
Zesty.
Yeah.
So zesty.
Chuck a correction in here. The IAEA has said the entrances at Isfahan have been impacted by the strikes. So
this is Isfahan. This is the ground level facility. It's not Fordow. Fordow is the deep underground facility.
Exactly. It's buried to protect it.
And if you watch any of the CNN broadcasts, any of the Fox News broadcasts where they get these sickos who are just like, I just want to see Iran burn. I just want to see brown people die. I want to nuke Iran. They keep saying, and I've heard it said like 4 different times from 4 different people, Fordo, Fordo, Fordo. It's all about Fordo. It's Fordo, Fordo, Fordo. Like they are so focused on Fordo. That's the line that they're saying. They're like, it has to be Fordo. We have to take out Fordo. That's the bad one. And that's because that's the one that's deepest underground.
The bit in the song Alice's Restaurant where he's like, I went to see the psychiatrist at the draft and I was like, I want to kill, I want to eat burned dead bodies, I want veins in my teeth. This is the least anti-Iran American politician. Like that's the vibe of like. But should we talk about the Strait of Hormuz yet? Or
I think so. Yeah, I think it's important to.
Yeah, big time. So this is when I was saying earlier about the Marx quote when he was talking about the canal getting blocked and everyone's bringing it up for the boat. Like, is just a spot on analysis for this as well. Like it's just everyone was like, Marx did actually predict when the canal got blocked. But the Strait of Hormuz is responsible for an enormous amount of like global shipping and particularly global oil shipping. And Iran has like jumped to like, we are going to close the Strait of Hormuz in response to threats a whole ton of times, as they're just like, well, if you do that, we'll do this. That has led to de-escalation. In all previous cases, well, I don't know about all previous cases, but like, has been used as a credible threat that has made people back off in the past. And now, Trump's just gone ahead and bombed them. So they've immediately gone through, they've got approval for it, and they're making moves. We'll see, but they're making moves to close the Strait of Hormuz.
20% of all petrochemical exports from the Middle East go through there, so they have to go all the way around, like around the Horn of Africa, like all kind of shit.
It looks like it will raise oil prices for the West. A previous threat to do it raised oil prices for the West by 4%. If they do it, it's predicted it could be between 7 and 14%, which just like we are already struggling. Like we are just like the cost. We're calling this the cost of living, as if that's fucking normal. But like, what a perfectly radicalizing phrase for us to all be saying. Like the cost of living is going up. Okay, well let's just be blunt here. The cost of oil is everything in the West. Everything is dependent on oil because everything has to be fucking shipped and everything runs on oil. So
everything's in fucking plastic. Absolutely everything.
Literally, the cost of living is what you should be hearing when you hear the cost of oil will go up 7 to 14%. Like,
if you're wondering, like, why are we getting all these news stories about how much plastic is in my testicles? It's like, that's why. Yeah, it's oil.
But like, it's your. We remember when the Ukraine invasion begun, when Russia invaded Ukraine, like the huge jump in the cost of living then. Like, and it's not like it fucking went down again, did it? Like, but we yeah, like I think everyone, watching and listening will remember like how extreme that was and how unaffordable it made everything, especially energy, but still everything at the same time. Uh yeah, imagine it's gonna be a fucking like 7 to 14% hike instead, possibly more. It may
Mm.
get fucking worse than that, like Iran will also be in some economic trouble in doing this, by the way. Like, this is very much like a strike in terms of how it functions geopolitically. Like, they will
Yeah,
not be able to trade with China, who are their biggest oil trade partner, their biggest oil
yeah,
customer, I guess.
yeah.
That will also drive up price of goods coming from China, by the way, to the rest of the world. So there's like, it will have a secondary knock-on effect on top of it. Yeah, I think like um yeah, it's a big, big lever they have control over there, and like it looks like they're pushing it. So what are our thoughts?
I think that Iran is showing incredible restraint, and I think that this could be to its detriment. I don't know. I've been thinking that the only way that Iran should retaliate if this happens is it should absolutely move to attack US bases in the region. It should absolutely move to attack the oil fields in the Gulf, cause as much damage as humanly possible to the US economic system, because otherwise the US will just continue to attack it. There is going to be no incentive for the US to stop attacking it otherwise. Um, I don't know if this is just because this has been the policy, this has been the decision made by Khamenei. There could very well be some disagreements taking place at the top right now. There could very well already be people who are upset with Khamenei for showing such restraint. He is like, a pretty solid philosophical guy. I'm going to talk a bit more about
Yeah,
this.
he's a very well respected leader. I'm not gonna say I've like approved every decision he's ever made. I just like
Yeah.
he is people look up to him a lot.
Yeah,
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 so
like he's literally seen as a leader of Islam in the region, Shia Islam anyway, not Sunni, but he's seen as someone who's shown like great resistance to empire. Like,
mm,
it's kind of crazy. You will get people who are just like, I don't know, I guess very invested in the Shia versus Sunni
yeah.
discourse, and they'll just be like, yeah, but Iran's doing really well right now. Big up Iran. We support Khamenei and all this stuff. Um, it's quite difficult to say. Yeah, I think that if you see some of Khamenei's old tweets, we'll go into this in a minute, but he's basically a kitten. Like, he's an old sweet baba.
Yeah.
Yeah, he literally has like said things in tweets like women are like flowers and we mustn't hold them too close, otherwise we'll kill them. Shit like, how dare the Americans pretend that they abolish slavery, but they still do private prison camps and prisoners have to do labor
Yeah.
and it's overwhelmingly black. He literally said Black Lives Matter when Eric Garner died. He literally tweeted Black Lives Matter when George Floyd died. Like, this is the guy that we're talking about. He's, he understands the evil empire of
Yeah.
USA in a way that a lot of people don't.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people will say like, I mean, there's a lot of misinformation about Iran as well. That people will be like, oh, like women don't have rights, and it's like it's not really that simple. Like, like I saw a clip of The View where they're saying, but like women can't get educations, whereas like
Oh, I
Iranian
hated
women
that
are
fucking
there's
clip
the
so
most
much.
medical school grads of like women in the world in Iran. It's like
It's STEM, yeah. They have
yeah,
like an
yeah, yeah.
overwhelming
It's
STEM
just like
graduate rate for women, yeah.
it's not as simple really, like it's like okay, there's some things that you look at like saying that like a lot of women have to wear hijab, but it's not like there's been people posting videos to kind of counteract this propaganda where they're just walking down the street and there's women with uncovered hair and they're just chilling. It's like obviously
Yeah.
there is this like huge Islamic influence which kind of pressures some people to doing that kind of stuff, but I mean, any country that you're going to be in, there is going to be some kind of like cultural pressure to, do these things. And I mean, there have been like so many reforms over the years, especially since like the early 2000s and stuff in Iran anyway, that make it so it's like it's not it's not the evil empire that they're trying to pretend it is on American TV. Obviously, there's still social problems that can be addressed, but and Khomeini has been kind of like on the right side of a lot of American culture war issues. It kind of reminds me a lot of back when the Soviet Union was still around, which if it was still around, none of the shit would be happening right now. There was a saying, there was like a Russian saying, I can't remember exactly what it was, and it was basically in Russian saying, but in America you lynch black people, and so people would go like, oh, but you have to do this, you do that, you do that, and they would always just say, but in America you lynch black people, and it's
Yeah.
this kind of thing
The
where it's
meme
like,
that's going around now that's like the American talking to the Chinese citizen and like you guys can't even protest when your cops kill you, and the Chinese citizen's like, your cops kill you?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like America is like one of the only places in the world where a cop can murder you extrajudicially and then get a paid holiday for it. It's like
Mm.
this is yeah,
Well,
yeah.
it's like
I mean,
you were talking about that view clip.
yeah.
In that view clip, Whoopi Goldberg says, because that fucking, who the fuck is that lady? I don't even know who she is. She's absolutely boiled my blood. She was like, in Iran, they throw gay people off buildings. Women aren't
Yeah.
allowed rights. They're not allowed to read. They're not allowed to go outside. Country back. And like, it was just like, I was losing my mind because even Whoopi Goldberg went, whoa, 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 wait a minute. As a black
Yeah,
woman,
yeah.
she remembers what it's like for black women in
Yeah,
America,
yeah,
for black
exactly.
people in America. She also says, in America, we used to tie gay people to cars.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
come on, man. Like, does that mean that we should be invaded? Do you think that, and again, like another sort of like talking point on this is in America, in Georgia recently, they had to do an abortion. No, they had to give a woman who died had to give birth to her, basically dead fetus, because that's just the abortion laws now. This woman was like rotting, and they took this baby out of her, and fuck knows if it even survived. Like, and it's like, so what? Should we just like invade Georgia because they don't treat
Yeah.
women right? Like,
I
because
think
women
there's
are
going to
second
be
class
like
citizens.
there's a lot of ramifications in that case. It's probably even like a whole Red Planet episode to talk about the kind of medical precedents and things that sets as
I would
well.
like
Like
that. I'd like to get into that.
yeah, yeah. We should maybe line that up for the future. But I think we do need to kind of wrap it up for the day
Absolutely.
here. So yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of like a good place to leave it. Like
Yeah.
but
It's an
we'll
unfolding
obviously be
situation.
yeah, we'll be revisiting this over the next however
I
long
Yeah,
this
I
takes
do
in the
just
news
really
stuff.
want to quickly mention
Mm.
that there is indeed white feminist regime change sleeper agents that have awoken.
Oh
If
yeah.
you see these losers in the wild, you must berate them for being wrong and bad.
Mm.
About supporting Israel's bombing of Iran simply because they believe that people can't wear the
Yeah.
hijab in that people can't have their hair without the hijab in Iran. It's crazy. Please don't fall for any of it. Even Red Roots Collective, who me and Tim interviewed on the show, have put out a statement saying, "Yo, shut up about all that for the minute and support Iran and its retaliation against Israel." So
Yeah.
that's the line,
Mm.
comrades. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
sorry, Tim.
No, it's all good. Yeah, that's it. So, yeah, thank you for joining us. I would like to remind everyone that our show is made possible by our beautiful, beautiful donors through our Patreon account. It gives you access to the Discord and all this kind of stuff. But the really high tier, the absolute sickos, get a little shout out at the end of the show, which looks like this. Thank you, Risk Inverse, for being an absolute sicko as you are. But yeah, Meal, what if people want to hear more about when they want more of the Meal perspective? Where can they find you?
Yeah, I am, to be honest, speaking of sickos, going sicko mode at the minute with my content. Please go to linktree.ee/DJ Mule. Follow me on all the socials there. I'm starting to up my game with Instagram posting, inspired by like Clementine Morrigan and Danny fucking Price to do like these kind of like Instagram slides that are just like little quick info slides. I put one of those out today. Just sort of talking about, what would you do, Conrad, if if your country that you live in bombs Iran? What would you do if we fucking nuke Iran? Yeah, doing a bit of that. I've got another video in the work that's going to be about sort of like a lot of the stuff that we've spoken about here, but also like all the other political, pressures that are going on all over the imperial court at the moment. Kind of like a what can be done, what should be done. I can't remember the title of that book. You know what I'm on about. By some guy. So if you want more info on that, sign up to my Patreon. I've got a Twitch Clips channel now as well. So go to Mule Twitch Clips on YouTube, where there's like sort of like little sort of edited segments of my stream. And also check out me live. Check me out live. Check out me live. Check out me money me live. I'm streaming again because I found it so hard to find a job because Mossad are preventing me from getting work after standing up to Allianz for being part of the genocide industrial complex. So please come to my stream and support me. I'll be streaming 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. around those times, UK time, Monday to Thursday. So please consider coming there and doing that. But yeah, if I want to support Tim, where can I find more Tim?
So you can find me on Twitch and YouTube as A Conquest of Dread. Not that I'm super active. I haven't really done a stream outside of Red Planet for a while now. But otherwise you can find me on Blue Sky and Twitter as Dread Conquest. Or if you are into tabletop RPGs, you can jump on Twitter and look up Dark RPG 2000, which is a book I'm working on. Here's like a pre-release like kind of proof copy here. It's very cool.
Whoa.
It's like 200 pages, and they're like every spread has like at least one unique illustration on it. It's like crazy. It's so much work. Like there's like so much has gone into this. But yeah, you can check that out. It's kind of like a dark future dystopian anti-corporate kind of thingy. If you're into that kind of stuff, check it out. It's actually the proper release is coming soon. It's just in like the late playtest things now. But Soph, what about Sophie from Mars? Where can we find out more about her?
Absolutely. Sophie from Mars is the thing you search. All my links are at linktree.ee/Sophie from Mars. Most important one I'll tell you about right now is my Patreon, because I have a video coming out, big video. It's about the Mars trilogy, not unrelated, but also kind of unrelated. It's my favorite sci-fi series by Kim Stanley Robinson, and it's just some beautiful like communist space sci-fi utopianism that's about a series of progressive revolutions and how we get to like a wonderful utopian future. And I love it. And so I've spent months and months making this long video, kind of telling the story of it, analyzing it, discussing it, talking about what we can get from utopianism. I think it's really important in a time like this to have writing for political people that allows a kind of escapism, right? Like a kind of like, let's go and think about like the best possible outcomes while not really like abandoning political thought at the same time, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I love about these books. So you don't have to have read them to watch the video. It's a really fucking pretty video. I've put a lot of my own like astrophotography into it. I made like discussion of like space. I also recreated a bunch of the kind of important sci-fi set pieces from the books in Kerbal Space Program, so I could film it. It's a high effort video, and I would really like to be paid for my work. So go to patreon.com/Sophie from Mars, and you can watch it now for $2. You'll also see bonus content about how it was made, and you'll also see my other videos early if you stay subscribed at $2. And I would really like that. So please do that. The video is going to be out pretty soon. I'm just waiting for a copyright issue with YouTube to resolve on the new upload, which will go public probably sometime this week. But like, yeah, if you go check out the video when it's out, if you're hearing this when it's out, on my channel, Sophie from Mars. And either way, please go to patreon.com/Sophie from Mars and support me there. Okay. I hope everyone has a good week.
Enjoy.
Bye.